So I introduced you to the idea that traditional training is not just a technique for combat, but it's also teaching you a concept and working certain body attributes, teaching you to move your body in certain ways. And we talked about how the wheeling stance is not necessarily how we fight, but it's to do positional training. Footwork patterns, like I already said, we have the north and south, which is often referred to as the meridian stepping. And that's what most people are used to seeing fighting, like kickboxing, boxing, and stuff like that. I'm going forward. But there are two footwork patterns. There's what we see in like Taekwondo and karate, where you just go forward stance, forward stance, forward stance, right? And then there's the shuffling footwork, you know, up and back, where I don't change my stance. We have all of these. And then we have the 7-star, which is when you're zigzagging along the meridian line. And that, I'm going to get to that a little bit later. I'm going to go right now. I'm going to start showing you some more practical, more how you would actually use some of this stuff in a fight kind of stuff, right? Using these footwork patterns. And we're going to start with the meridian, which is easy to understand to a certain degree. So, what we should learn from the wheeling step, though, is that I'm not punching here. I'm not punching from my shoulders. I have my center line. So my punches should be going from my nose and straight, from my nose and straight. Because if I'm doing this, I'm leaving myself open, right? And to get power, what happens is the hip goes on that line, and then the punch goes. So when I'm throwing the rear, I gotta really turn. So for example, in Lama, you see this into this, and there's a big emphasis on getting that hip to turn. And this is why we have what most people think of as chibo. No, we don't use that term. We have positions like this and turning like this. It's actually very hard to do, right? To get you to learn how to turn, get that flexibility, learn to get your hip into what you're doing. So I should never be like this. I should be always trying to turn as much as possible. 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 So, you know, in forms you see, right? You see. But again, the reason I'm extending this arm out behind me is to get me to get that idea of the bow and arrow concept. But in real fighting, I'm doing jab and I'm doing cross, right? Now, of course, this is super basic. So what I'm going to show you is what we call連環打步, meaning continuous striking, which uses this meridian stepping and is one of the few places where we just step straight forward. But as you probably guessed, it's not as simple as stepping straight forward, because the thing that most people ask when they do something like Taekwondo karate is, why don't I just step into you? Wouldn't you punch me? Wouldn't you try to stop me? We'll parry the jab, we'll parry the cross. So some people go hook, but then we're basically in the same positional arrangement. And what will happen is, he'll learn to parry the jab, parry the cross, he'll shield the hook, and he'll counter hook. Right, and that's why I don't want to do this on the hit, right? That's why you have to learn that there's a difference between what you're doing in forms to develop attributes and what you're doing in a fight. But if you notice, like I said, 1, 2, I can do 3, but I always have to worry that I'm in the same position and he can hit me back. And that's why sometimes we call this caveman fighting, because it's like I hit you and you hit me. Right? So, in Lama we have this thing called連環打步, meaning continuous hitting. And it's a step forward. I'm going to try to do it nice. I'm pretty sure you'll see the results pretty quickly. I go jab, cross, jab, cross. Step away for a second, just like the show. In the forms, it looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright? Notice also it's not rock'em sock'em robots. I'm not trapped in the closet. The more I extend, I'm trying to be nice, but the extension is what makes him either run the hell away or eat a bunch of punches. I go 1, 2, 1, 2. We also do this with palms. Go 1, 2, 1, 2. And with the palms, you also have, like, if people try to block and tie you up, you can clear. But I just want to stick to the striking one first. That's Linwan Zhong, meaning continuous palms. I'm going to do Linwan Da, which is striking. So again, I'm going jab, cross. I'm going to leave the punch extended in. That's the chunging, right? When I step, and you see how much space I cover. And then when I turn, see how much space I cover? Like I started here basically, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I started at that bag and my punch is past this bag by the time I'm done. Are you seeing that? So your partner's not going to like it. You can pair it, you can pair it, you can pair it, you can pair it, but it's not going to like it. Right? And you see, like, it's hard to parry because I'm so. This is why you can't just always parry or you can't just step back. This is why you need to tie something. You have two options. You can move out of the way, use your footwork, but that's hard too, especially if you're not like light on your feet, or some people aren't. That's why you need to wrestle, because sometimes the answer when people try to hit you a lot is to tie them up. That's the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu thing. They're not great boxers. They know there are people that were great boxers out there, but they knew if I have my arms around you, how much are you going to punch me? Right? I don't have to be a great boxer. People survived Mike Tyson at his height by hugging him. They didn't win the fight, obviously, because technically clinching is illegal. But they had his name was Bone Crusher Smith. He was one of the first people to go the distance. They called him after that fight Bone Clutcher Smith, because he just hugged him. When he survived, he goes, "Yeah, I went the distance because I can't get knocked out if I just wrap him up every time I get close." So he goes jab, he goes cross, he steps, he turns. So only one step. Jab, cross, step, jab, turn, cross. Right? 1, 2, step, 1, 2. So left,
Jab,
right,
cross,
left,
cross,
right.
jab.
Not that you've heard that before in a basic class, right? Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And I'm just to do the drill, I'm stepping back. That's not necessarily what I would want to do in a real fight, but so that you can. If I try to stand my ground, you see. I mean, he doesn't need long arms, right? His arms are not that really long, right? But 1, 2, he steps. Yeah, you see where he is? And so by the time he's done, you see where that punch is? That would be this punch coming out of the back of my skull. That's what you want, right? You don't want to be here hitting me here, right? With his full extension just barely touching me. So go back there. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Left, but notice I'm not doing this. It doesn't feel so intimidating, right? That's not doing much, right? Hips and shoulders, hips and shoulders, hips and shoulders, hips and shoulders. I mean, nice. But you see where my punch is?